Hey guys, it's Matt. I was going back and forth. Well, I guess I was just responding to Mark's email, but we were talking a bit about, and if you're all 7-11 out, look, I understand. For some reason, a big part of this channel is going to be going forward about just endless proof how the world isn't quote very real, removing the word very. That's going to be a big part of this channel going forward. And if that becomes old hat to you, if someone's saying, "Well, yeah, I know, we know the world's not real at this point," but that's actually, I mean, think about if that's becoming old hat to some of us. That's you try to say that to anybody else. I mean, there's probably only 1% of 1% of 1% get to we are, where every turn there's some sort of reality breakdown. So if anybody wants to just go through, since I replied to Mark about I started listing out the reality breakdowns, and if anybody wants to just, have fun, if that's fun, and go through them with me, we'll do that. And the best place to start, I think, and again, we have thousands of other topics over here where there's complete reality breakdowns in every single topic. So just the 7-Eleven by itself proves the world isn't real. And then if that wasn't good enough, just the stuff that we're going to talk about regarding the 7-Eleven reality breakdown, then there's like 1,000 other things we could go to. So let's just stay here for now. Um, One of the giveaways for a world that isn't real is, and it relates to the specific topic that we're going to get into, 7-Eleven, but it's Goldilocks nature. And how many times have I said that? But if you look at P versus no PP, P versus no PP, you know what I mean if you've been running in these circles. It's still Goldilocks, even though it's to many of us that have been doing this. People yelling at me right now, I can hear you saying, "Oh, come on, it's so one-sided. There's no PP. There's no, there's the what was that Pink Floyd? No more blue skies. Look, Mom, there's no plane up in the air." That starts out the Pink Floyd song. It's so people. It's so it's not. It is not one-sided. I'm in that camp, of course, but it's always Goldilocks, and how it plays itself right down the middle. That by itself, that principle carries through 1,000 different things. That gives itself away right there. So just out of the blue, a completely different example. Somebody sent me an Eric Dubay video that makes a mockery of. I like him. Before I start, if I don't get a chance to say this, I like watching Eric Dubay videos. But that there's a lot of Goldilocks that comes out of the topics that he discusses, where the reality plays it right down the middle. It gives all the evidence in the world to this group that wants to form this conclusion, and it gives all the evidence in the world to this group that wants to form this conclusion, and it's conflicting evidence that it presents both sides at the same time, which is impossible. But anyway, the video was about the mockery of the limb, and it is a joke. I mean, it shows there's a few pictures of a lem. I don't know what Apollo it was, where it looks like a piece of cardboard that some eighth graders could have put together for their play. A play with no budget, and gold foil wrapped around the legs, and all this stuff. And yeah, on that level, on that, I don't think people that analyze it at that level are going far enough. Sure, at that level, this lem looks like a piece of plastic with things taped on the side, but you have to go many levels away from it, or up or down or wherever you want to go to figure out, quote, what the reality is out to accomplish with that. So the first thing you have to say to yourself is, and again, if you haven't seen this video, you don't need to, but you've seen pictures of the lem that just look pieces falling off, and it looks like such a the set that James Bond ran through, and whatever that was, the set looked better than some of the things they present. So you have to stop by saying, and this relates to the Goldilocks principle. You have to stop and ask yourself, hmm, you know, um, multi-billion-dollar budgets, the smartest people in the world, evil genius upon evil genius that make Dr. Evil and little Vern Troyer look incompetent. You think that's the best they could do? If they, or do you think maybe the only explanation that makes sense is it looks like crap on purpose. See how all these reality mistakes are on purpose? Or if you don't think it's on purpose, you just think that, they're just made a mistake. Like the one world system and the evil genius that runs this world, they're just not really competent. Yeah. They're not competent. Put the whole world into a mask in 4 weeks. Yeah, they don't know what they're doing, do they? No. No, they couldn't possibly make a limb look good. So, and then the first grade truth response, and 4 or 5 people rising up out of their bathtub screaming at me. Well, Matt, it's two things. It's just first grade truth. It's mockery. It's mockery. That's the first grade truth parroted answer. And they know people won't pay attention. So they're just going to take a chance that their whole presentation could come to, their whole power structure could come to an end if people catch on by making a lem that looks like a cheap piece of shit. The point is, guys, if it looks like a cheap piece of shit, the limb, and we have pictures of it looking like a cheap piece of shit, then you can still make fun of it in a video and call it a cheap piece of shit, but just realize that's exactly what they want to show everybody. It was made to be a cheap piece of shit on purpose. And I know that's hard to understand, and I don't even fully sometimes understand it, or I don't fully understand it myself. I understand parts of it, but it's like what do you think they did? Well, is this good enough? Yeah, just make sure you have the tape better over here and the cardboard pieces. No, since they could do better, than what is put out in front of us is exactly what's meant to be put out in front of us. And it's not first grade of they're just mocking or they know no one's going to pay attention. No, they know exactly we were going to pay attention to it. And it's actually there. All the mistakes on purpose are there to get our attention. So you have to at least go into that level and say, we're not catching him in anything. Oh, we got these pictures of the lem, looks like hell. No, why does it look like hell? And what was their intention in making it look like shit in order to get us to notice? Then follow through. What do we do with it? And how does it serve them? How does it serve the system? So I don't want to get too much into that now. The point is, it's always Goldilocks, meaning, and even if let me just start with the basics with the Goldilocks here, and I haven't even gotten to the 7-Eleven yet. Um, the Goldilocks would be, we look at the presentation of the lemon. Yeah, it is a cardboard piece of shit that looks like, some, again, the eighth graders that have, the plays tomorrow. We haven't even built the lem yet you'll get it done in time. They could do it in 24 hours if they stayed after school. It is that much of a piece of shit, but it's just enough. And there's different ways to explain let me just not get ahead of myself. It's just enough where if I show it to Tony or people in my family, they're going to have ready-made excuses, or they're going to run scripts, or they're going to say, well, Matt, it was built to be in 0G. There is no need for structural integrity. There's no need. They'll always have a ready-made script ready to go. And it still doesn't explain why it just looks like, the stapler when you're in school, you could like open it up and that's what it looks like, that's how they made it. They just, if in second or third grade, we figured out the stapler could open up, like, oh, the possibilities here on bulletin boards, it just opened up a whole world to us in third grade. Um, you know, so it's always Goldilocks. Tony's going to be like, well, Matt, there's reasons why it looks like that, and it's meant to operate at zero G. You didn't know that? Don't you know that? Everyone around here is innocent. So it's the same old thing that happens every time. And I keep on the table that, like what uncanny deduction says, my words go out, it goes through my reality bubble or the membrane. He hears something similar, but here's something a little bit different in his reality bubble. So we're not even really communicating directly, where he's in a completely different reality bubble where the presentation of the Lem and Apollo actually makes a lot more sense, actually is believable per the standards of his reality. I don't take that stuff off the table, you know that. But anyway, that's getting a little bit out there. But so the point is, it's always Goldilocks, and that by itself, that gives it away. It can't always operate as Goldilocks. Even something like the ultimate reality breakdown in this whole reality system is the eclipse. There's nothing that comes close. Nothing comes close. We can see, it gives us all the evidence we need on our side. I haven't gotten to the 7-Eleven part yet. I'm almost, look at it right at 9/11. Haven't even gotten to the 7-Eleven part yet. But the eclipse gives us everything we need to be like, well, that's I don't believe in one in a trillion coincidences based on the mathematics that would need to occur behind telemetry and trajectory of bodies of different size, 400 times farther, 400 times larger, moving in different directions. The chances of them moving, fitting over each other like two milled quarters that are milled in the same machine back to back, it's one in trillions. I don't buy, that there can be a one in trillion or one in trillions possibility. So therefore, what they say is happening with the eclipse is not really happening. It's something else. We have all the evidence in the world, and it's just good enough. The science explanation of it is just good enough where the people that get the explanation of the eclipse, like Tony and the guy down the cul-de-sac, it just makes perfect sense that, well, Matt, I agree it wouldn't happen, but everything here operates on the ecliptic. Everything happens like all the planets go around on a level, kind of a level plane. So eventually, of course, the moon is going to move in front of the sun, and it is an amazing coincidence that one is 400 times larger and 400 times further. But Matt, it's on the ecliptic, and I agree if everything was going all which way, but then you could get into like, well, why is everything? That's a reality breakdown of itself. Why is everything going around on a level plane on the ecliptic? And they have ways to explain that away that it's always Goldilocks, that appears ridiculous to us, but completely believable to the Tony and the guy down the cul-de-sac. So for this is endless for the 7-Eleven job application. And in terms of, Mark and I were talking about P or no PP, you get into, well, okay, let's say no PP. Then, well, you just, if you follow the river back up to its source, and it eventually or very quickly becomes a reality breakdown, then, okay, there were no nothing came out of American Airlines. Nothing came out of United Airlines. Well, then how did that work? Who was the gate agent? That they have an official gate. That who was the gate agent? How did they keep all them quiet? Eventually, the paid and threatened just doesn't add up. Eventually, too many thousands of people are involved. It starts to break down. So, okay, the gate agents, the pilots, anybody that was close to if there was, then was there, if a no PP person would say there was no 11. There was no United 175. Well, how about the 1,000 people that work, in administrative role or executive or managerial role for American Airlines, United Airlines? 1,000 people in each company, they're all in on it. They knew that there was no flight, nothing went out. Okay, well, wait, Matt, something went out, but then, okay, well then, if there's no PP, what happened to the pilot? Did he go to the same? There actually a flight went out, but it was empty. I mean, it just breaks. It just, if you think it through, it starts to break down very quickly. We usually don't get into this level of detail. We just, at the very surface level, say, yeah, I mean, obviously, nothing. The main thing for no PP is nothing of it like that resembles a tinfoil. If you just if you just glued some Q-tips together and wrapped it in, a couple sheets of aluminum foil or Reynolds wrap, that's actually much closer to the consistency of an airplane wing than say a railroad tie is. That it's much closer to the consistency of an airplane ring, just wrapping something in tinfoil, than something that's real, like a. Did you ever pick up a railroad tie? Just a 2 foot section of it is like, whoa! It's incredibly heavy. There's no way it can make that hole in the side. It's just not possible. And there's a lot of things that point to no PP, but it's the cutting of these. Just you saw the beginning of the free voice video where they're lowering these beams, and I guess in sections of three. I don't know, maybe sections of 5 or 6. I don't remember what it was, but this, it wasn't like one beam at a time, but each beam, and I don't mean the whole section, each of those beams probably weighed, as much as a Mack truck, at least the truck itself with a cargo bed that's empty. I mean, each beam weighs as much as a Mack truck. They're that big, that solid if you were up next to it. And an airplane wing, just so we know, just from that is really all you need, that points to no PP. That's all you need. I mean, what you can, and then there's a lot of other things. But then there's if you throw a dart, there's reality breakdowns in all areas. Well, the air traffic controllers? How does that work? There was no PP. There was no. This is confusing the heck out of the bot. Like what? The bot's like, what the heck is he talking about in this? I think you guys understand it. Um, so the air traffic controllers, the ones that these planes go in the same flight paths, and these. It's like go watch Pushing Tin with Billy Bob Thornton. I think that was that he at the time he made Pushing Tin with was it John Cusick? I guess he was dating. I think he was still dating Angelina Jolie. He had a vial of her blood around his neck, and she had a vial of his blood. That's normal and natural. She started dating him, I think, after his presentation in Sling Blade. I mean, what? How does that? Whoever made Billy Bob Thornton in Sling Blade with his pants jacked up and Carl, I did him. I'll take the biggins. Mhm. How does that get the most beautiful woman in the world? I don't know, but I guess if you're willing to trade blood vials with her, anything's possible. I'm not interested. But so you go watch Pushing Tin. That's I think it's over the top, but it gives you a picture of what air traffic control is like. There's not too many movies about air traffic control. What were who were it was it's the same guys doing the same sectors of out Boston Logan and connecting to JFK in New York and LaGuardia in New York and Newark in New Jersey and Philadelphia and where were these guys? Are they all paid and threatened? Every one of them is like, I was sitting at my terminal. There was no blip for ATA 11. There was no blip for United Flight 175. I mean, they're all paid and what do they? How do they keep them quiet? So you have the problem with that. It's just endless and it just keeps going and going and going. You have the people the reality breakdowns just come fast and furious. You just throw a dart anywhere, and you just follow the tributaries back, and just after 3 or 4 steps, like 3 or 4 clicks of a mouse, you hit a reality breakdown. How about the people that okay, everybody, the Naudette brothers, yeah, they're just out there with the fire company. Oh, what's that sound? Dawn Michael is out there, giving her interview about. Yeah, I saw. Remember, that's a saw. Yeah, we heard a plane coming in, and then at the end, Dawn's like, what did she say? The announcer, the person interviewing, corrected her. He was like, shortly after they had exploded, and then the woman, whoever that zombie was interviewing her, was like, no, not it was a long time after. Oh yeah, yeah, it was a long time after. She like corrects right on the spot. I don't know if you noticed that from the Free Voice video, but they have these people, these eyewitnesses of yeah, we heard a plane. Well, okay, fine. If there's PP in the air, then you have okay, the Naudette brothers, they can capture just by random coincidence out with the fire company, they can capture number 11 coming in just at random, and that's when nobody expects anything. But once several 100,000 people now understand what's going on, and 40,000 cameras in Lower Manhattan are trained in the general vicinity, then only you can only get 18 videos when again you have one video when nobody's expecting anything. See, nobody in the whole world is expecting what's going to happen, but the Naudette brothers get number 11, sure. Then when hundreds of thousands of people know there's a major tragedy occurring, and 40,000 cameras are generally starting to train their lenses and their aperture towards the top of the centers, when that's when you should have 400 to 500 stills, you should have 250 videos. That by itself and is a reality breakdown. If somebody's yelling at me, I've said gone through this many times. If somebody's yelling at me saying, "Well, if there's no PP, Matt, how is no stills and videos a reality breakdown?" Duh. Well, then there should be 250 videos of it just blowing up with nothing in the vicinity. See how that works? There should be if you have your video rolling, your video's rolling. If the South Tower, and there's nothing, then there's nothing. That by it's a reality breakdown on both sides. So the point is the I don't know what direction United 175 came from, but it wasn't the same direction as um, you know uh, ATA's 11. But you have um, Oh, I don't know. You have, um, I guess, well, it doesn't matter, 175 or 11. You have supposedly thousands and thousands of people working very close to the windows on that side of the north tower. And you have thousands of people working very close to the windows from floor 100 all the way down to floor 20. They would have a good vantage point of anything coming in. And maybe I've missed it, guys, but we have almost no interviews at all of anybody. And I would have, this is the most fascinating thing in the world to me. And I've thought about it at length for 5 or 6 years after I learned that the whole official story was ridiculous. I still, for years, as we all did, or most of us did, believed in PP. We believed, we knew that it was all, but we believed, there were theories like total BS put out, like in the movie Loose Change and crap like that. We believed there were still things in the air for years after we identified the event as a fraud. So for years, I thought, where are the thousands of interviews with and it would have been chilling to me because I believed, I had believed for years there was PP. Um, that somebody's just, the interview, like, I'm gonna get to the point, just saying, yeah, I worked in accounting for whatever brokerage or whatever insurance company, and I was on floor 60 and nothing had happened. I worked in floor 60 of North Tower, and it was the same vantage point. So I remember seeing it. I'm just saying, where are these accounts? Where are these testimonies? I remember seeing it, and these are the testimonies when I believe there was PP that I just was craving to hear, because it would have been, you want to talk about the definition of awesome. Now, awesome, that doesn't mean good or bad. Awesome means, if we've taken it into society and use it completely different from the word awesome should be used. Um, if I was sitting and I went, what's that? It's getting bigger, and there should be hundreds and hundreds of these types of accounts. And I was on floor 50, and I went, "Oh my goodness, it's not a bird, and it was coming in over, and I looked up, and it came right over my head into the, and I mean, these accounts would have been incredible. I mean, the fact that these accounts don't exist, um, is again incredible proof for no PP, but it's still a reality breakdown because all of the, and I can hear you. I know people are rising up out of there, and I know your objections. I'm going to get to your objections. You don't have to communicate with me in real time as I'm making these videos. I'm going to address your objections. I know your objections. I've been there a thousand times. So if there was no PP, people would have just been like the thousands of people that worked on that side close to the window, or a cubicle close to the window, an office close to the window. It was very open. If you ever see inside the floors of the WTC, you had your core columns, but then on the outside, it was completely open space plan. And your windows were relatively, thin between the beams, but, as you back up, you could see a lot. And there were cubicles and offices, of course, close to the windows, etc. And again, I hear people screaming at me about there isn't anybody in the tower. I know. Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Um, so see, if there was no PP, somebody would have been, or the thousands of people on that side would have been like, I worked right on the window. And I heard an explosion and something blew out up there, and if there was PP coming in, I would have seen it. I worked on the window. My cubicle was on the window. My office was on the window. So they just, and then the truth community always, they just say Matt's reality breakdown. That's just cop out. Obviously the powers that be, they're so perfect. They were able to get to every single person that worked, along a window, and they were able, and of course it's the same old thing, paid and threatened, and everybody's controlled. I mean, they've got every leak sealed up perfectly. And there was 400 videos, and they got to them all. The Adjustment Bureau got to them all. Well, yeah, when I say reality breakdown, if there is a technology or a dark magic or something that defies our understanding of reality itself inside the bookends, that's a reality breakdown. You know, if Voldemort lands on the top of the Northern Trust building and just, flick and swish, sees to it that everybody's camera just, I thought I had this on film, and look, it's just what happened to the film. If Voldemort lands on the Northern Trust, or he lands in the Verizon building or the post office next to Building 7, that's a reality breakdown. No matter what means or unusual, even a technology we don't understand, a time machine, a dark magic, a spell, a rich. This all goes into the general category of reality breakdown. I mean, so anyway, so if there were no PP, you'd have thousands of accounts of just saying, well, just blew up. There wasn't, and I don't think they're good enough to have everybody sealed up. Everybody's paid and threatened. Every story that leaks, they're on top of it and they get to it just before the leak. I don't buy it. And there is some things funneling out now. Some people have sent me videos, and if something comes out now, I place zero stock into it. I mean, what did it take for them to release the Zapruder film? Um, 8 years or something like that. So 8 years after, I'm supposed to believe this is an accurate account of what happened when they had 8 years to send it to Eddie Sakamoro, Rising Sun Laboratories, and doctor it up. When the local guy who's interviewing Zapruder, I don't, maybe he's in on it or not. Zapruder is definitely in on it. He says, well, this man here got the videos of Brooder, and he says we should have it available like this afternoon. He says something like that. We have the video, and it'll be available shortly. Well, then, yeah, 8 years later, play the cricket sounds right now, and then people believe that. So any video, people have sent me some videos about, look, this video really shows there really is no PP. I just don't, any video that comes now, I think not to, um, I appreciate the person sending it to me, and I hope they don't take this the wrong way, but in that email, they said it really looks very believable. In my opinion, they have the ability to fake a video with 100% realism across the board. 100% realism. You could take it like in Rising Sun to the Eddie Sakamura laboratories in Rising Sun, and it shows Eddie Sakamura, but it was really the senator. They don't, that when they showed you that 20 some years ago, their capabilities were probably 100 times that. So if a 7-Eleven video comes out now, I don't even want to see it. I don't care I mean, I don't want to say I don't want to see it, but because I will analyze it, not that it's real in any way, I'll say, what is the system trying to get me to believe? By releasing this, what is the system trying to get me to believe? And then why? And even that is a pointless screen exercise, because unless you remember to turn that around to why is it doing this to me and what does that tell me about myself, then if we don't remember to keep doing that, then we're playing exactly into its hands. But for those that, again, the objection saying, well, Matt, what you're saying is that proves, like I've said, people come forth, and I don't buy it at all, that there was nobody. You saw the pictures of that building being built. There was nobody there. It was almost every floor was empty. No, no. Okay. Were there, okay, truth's probably somewhere in the middle. Was there a lot? First of all, remember, okay, this where, oh yeah, that's right. Matt's gonna remind us he has his fake story. He's a shill. I'll say it again. All right. His name is George McLaughlin. He was a best friend of my cousin when we used to stay at my uncle's house down in Ocean City, New Jersey. George McLaughlin. I knew him very well. Played football on the beach with him, whatever. I knew him really well over the course of, say, 3 summers, but he was basically my cousin's best friend. The insurance company shipped me out to San Francisco, LA first in 96, then to San Francisco in 1999. My cousin hadn't seen George for, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years, because my cousin lived on the West Coast. We shared an apartment in San Francisco. No, just shared an apartment. No reason to read into that. Just cousins sharing an apartment in San Francisco because the rents were so out of control. George was supposed to come see us. The point is, he was a trader. He was a trader of some kind of commodities broker at the top of the North Tower. The event happened. He was supposed to come out and see us. He never came. Do I believe he was paid off and is on David Bowie's island? No, I don't. Okay, no, I don't. Because then you believe this system, this evil genius system, is a caring and loving system that under no circumstance would ever kill anybody. Is that what you think? So no, I there were people. There's other ways other than a personal story through my cousin to prove people were working in the building. Although I do believe a lot of the floors were empty. There were rent issues and asbestos issues, and no doubt a lot of the floors were empty. But I've just heard too many accounts over the years of people. There was underground subway stop, basically just for the World Trade Center, I guess related to lines that go to Wall Street and all of Lower Manhattan. But there was a stop, a path stop, I believe, and a subway stop. And even the Jeffrey Wharton guy that managed the lease or the trade center for on behalf of Silver Steiner Properties, who he had a dermatologist appointment. He couldn't be there that morning. He would have loved to be there, but he had a dermatologist appointment. Sure. He's even said 50,000 people would come and go, with like 30,000 people coming and going potentially from that train stop. Or if you, I don't know. I've never gotten off the New York subway there or the path. I don't know. I could be getting a lot of this wrong. But if there was nobody in the buildings, and the truthers go to the same image, it's so pathetic to run back to the same image. Apparently, there's an image shortly after construction where the sun's behind the WTC. You've seen the picture, and you can kind of just see right through it. And oh, under no circumstance could that have ever been faked or put into the truth community. That would just never happen. That like anybody from 1985 on like a Commodore 64 could fake a picture like that. This image, just one image shows how it's like transparent. There was nobody in there. So, do you know how that would have left like you people would have gone if they would that nobody would have come out of the path stop, nobody would have come out of the subway. There would have just been all the vendors that were down there. You just like people going to work at Wall Street, or maybe I'm off by a few blocks, would be like every time I kind of get close to the WTC, it's like there's nobody around here. And when you're in New York, it's packed with people. Maybe it's not that famous crossing from Tokyo, but it's packed. If there was a 2 or 3 or 4 year period where there was like only like 5 floors were occupied in each building, then I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this. There's no point. There's people that will always believe there was nobody in the building. It just makes no sense. You would have had that area of Lower Manhattan kind of empty for 2 years, and somebody would have noticed. So it's just not okay. I don't think there probably was if there's 110 stories on each floor, you know, there probably was 30 or 40 or floors empty. There was still tens of thousands of people working across both buildings, of which one was George McLaughlin. But nevertheless, why am I even talking about this? Um, well, the objection was there was nobody in the building, which related back to. I'm sorry for being so long-winded. Relating back to where were the thousands of people that had the window view? That the thousands of people that would have been on that side, that would have been like if there was a 767 coming in just above me, I would have seen it. And somehow the Information Bureau has the men in black have visited every one of those people, paid them and threatened them. Nobody ever leaks anything. And then you have the endless the Corbett report. At his charts and graphs by itself is a reality breakdown. I've gone over this recently as well, where you have all the connections: SAIC, Lockheed, Boeing, PNAC. This arrow goes this way, and the charts like there's boxes and arrows going everywhere. And Norman Mineta and what Dianne Feinstein's husband, what he was involved in. It's just like whatever, all these arrows, and so thousands and tens of thousands of people just from the Corbett report, charts and graphs, they're all in on it. What about the potentially 500 to 1,000 people that had window seats at that side of the Pentagon? Okay, it's yeah, Matt, if they're working for the Army or the Special Forces or Black operations, they can probably be kept quiet a little easier. I'll give you that, but it's still just one more thing to add on that you have to keep. The Information Bureau has to shore up that you have to keep people quiet. It's not. It basically who could have been working along that one side of the North Tower, one side of the South Tower. Basically, people like the Jamie Lee Curtis character from True Lies, just like my life is boring with my husband, and I want, just people that that aren't. I agree that people in the Pentagon, that would have been a little bit different. Of course, I don't believe no flight 77 came in to. I mean, it's just there should be hundreds of cameras. This is the reality breakdown here comes with the people around us. There should be 100 cameras pointed outside in the general direction from the Pentagon, and it's the Pentagon. It's supposed to be the most secure building in the world. Maybe there's 1,000 cameras, cameras on the roof, cameras pointing out, and there's no pictures from the Pentagon other than a parking lot camera that it takes pictures of people that get to take a ticket in case they walk out on the $5 they owe. That camera gets the image, and nothing. There's no official camera, and they don't even come out and say it's all classified. They just say it doesn't exist, or they don't address it at all. And the people around us just accept this as being completely normal. When you could say to them, like in 2010, if there was a fight like in a high school, like in the what do you call it, the courtyard of a high school, or like in the parking lot of a high school, there's a fight. Do you think that their high school, like a lot of high schools, would have a camera to catch the fight? They'd be like, yeah, yeah, it'd be caught on camera. If there's a 7-Eleven, a literal 7-Eleven held up in North Philadelphia, you see, for like 20 years, we've had the images of the guy walking in with the sawed-off shotgun, with the hoodie up and the stocking over his face. So all the 7-Elevens in North Philadelphia they have video of all, but the Pentagon has nothing. And somehow people, I don't know, we don't get a chance to talk to too many people about this, but those you do, they will run a script, and they'll pull out a cue card and just find a way to explain it away. The actions of the people around us, that's a reality breakdown as well, especially for something as ridiculous as the Pentagon. I don't know. They just find a way to explain it away. So, are there any other major? There's hundreds of reality breakdowns regarding the seven. I'm sure there's some. Is there any other majors that I'm missing? Um, I mean, when I'm saying reality breakdown, I'm not talking about the ridiculous elements. Just that um, it was Atta's group. They arrived at Boston Logan on the 10th, and they're all in place, but they decide to go up to Portland, Maine, have a night on the town that included Pizza Hut, and then they needed. Oh, that was Matt. That was to get through security more easily. Yeah, yeah, okay. That ended up. It's all part of the story. It's just all to create part of the story. But the elements are ridiculous. Why would you drive up to Boston, Portland, Maine, have a puddle jumper that has a 30-minute connection between the 30-minute connection? They land at like, I don't know what it was. They land like six something, and they've got 30 minutes to get to flight 11. They're running through the airport, basically like OJ in the Hertz commercials from the early 80s. And it's all part of the story. None of it existed. I mean that goes without saying. There was no there was no PP. This guy named Muhammad, he didn't exist. None of them existed. I don't know. See, I don't know how they did it. I don't know how they. Then you have the stories of the flight instructors. They're all paid and threatened. The flight instructors in Hollywood, Florida, that, well, we taught these guys to take off, and we said, "Are you interested in learning how to land?" No, we don't need to do that. I mean, that's all part of the ridiculous story. We don't know. Oh, you should have caught on that something was amiss. That these guys didn't want to. Well, who could have thought they'd fly it into a building? It's ridiculous. There's the ridiculous elements far outweigh the reality breakdowns. But then you get into things like the whole Rebecca Roth presentation of methodical deception, methodical illusion to me is ridiculous. Um, does what exactly her role in the reality system is to push forward that there was P, of course. Is the reality system capable of pulling it off where she absolutely, through her research, believes every bit of it? Potentially, yes. I would say no. I believe she, I believe she probably not somebody I'd lend my lunch money to and trust the money would come back. But sometimes I give these people a pass that the reality can operate in such a way where people serve the reality and serve what it wants without them even being in on it, without them being aware. Um, is that just where this innocent Rebecca Roth's research led her? And she ended up, of course, serving the reality by pushing the notion that there was P and Betty Ong's making phone calls to American Airlines headquarters and all that. No, I don't believe. I believe that that author knows exactly what's going on, and that is her role. And that's another where reality breakdown comes in, is the number of people that, if they truly knew or did know, paid and threatened or not or whatever, truly knew that what that you're talking about absolute monsters, people that we just would not recognize as being the same type of humanoid incarnation as you and I are. Was it? I don't know if it was in my email with Mark or someone else that said, well, all those the wives, the Let's Roll, the Todd Beamer's wife, and all that, they all did interviews and 60-minute interviews about, they would call up and say, the last moments from the cell phone, and cell phones, you're getting dropped calls like you just walk 2 blocks up Penn's Landing in Philadelphia, you get your call dropped. But people at 10, 15, 20,000 feet, they have their calls are somehow connecting for short periods of time. On cell phones, there's just no way they could do that. The reality breakdown comes where you have all these people, of which at the time Todd Beamer's wife um, seemed like a very nice, upfront person saying, "Yeah, I just was able to say I love you, and I heard I love you back." And of course, there's no other explanation. I believe that's all made up. I don't buy any of it, and none of it. I don't buy none of it. But in terms of the number of people, Matt, you just described 10 groups of like potentially hundreds of people in each group that all have to be in on it, all playing a part, all playing their role. Nobody ever leaks. Nobody. This is where it just gets. I don't know. It gets into the range of the area where it just becomes mind-boggling, and we'll never truly understand it between the bookends, or whatever's in the toy box. We'll never truly understand it, because I don't buy paid and threatened tens of thousands of times over with everybody perfectly delivering their lines, and I just don't buy it. I don't know how it happens. We'll never truly understand it, but I can use it to say I don't have to understand it. I don't have to know the mechanism or the exact technology or the means to step back and say, this ain't real. And go back to it the same way from Triple X in the diner. Within right away is like this diner scene. He knew. He only said it at the end, but he's like, this ain't this ain't real. I woke up here in this diner. It's the whole thing is a stage of some kind. It's a setup. It's a test. That's all. You don't. When Triple X Vin Diesel was became aware of that. um, what exactly was he doing there? Who was doing it to him? What was the role of Samuel L. Jackson's character at the time? What did they want him to? He didn't have any of those answers, and he didn't need any of those answers to go. This ain't real, and that's all we have to do. It's enough. Um, just the fact that if you're a no PP person, how it was coordinated amongst all the networks with the video footage of, I mean, the loose change or whatever present. I don't know, but that's that Alex Jones production was put out to. They know the truthers are going to understand a great bit of it, so they will lead the truthers in the wrong direction at the very last turn to get them all screwed up over here. That's the purpose of loose change in some of these other productions. But they'll talking about the you've heard the different videos saying that there's a lot of the videos right at the moment of impact from like the NBC feed or the CNN or the whatever, it went dark right at the moment, and several of them went dark at the same time, and that was like a marker so they all could link up. But so you have all the people in the control rooms doing live TV and Good Morning America, ABC, CBS, CNN, and they all what the men in black just came in and said, I want you to turn the live button off and put this tape in exactly when I say, and we're gonna sync our watches up like like the A team or something here, and just in everybody then in the control room for the news, they're all in on it, they're all paid and threatened. No, you just pop this videotape in and don't ask any questions. It's going to show a plane, but if you look out your window, there ain't none. So, but you're going to be quiet about this, right? We're going to have to come pay you a visit. Then it just breaks down across the board. And if anybody's screaming, saying, "Well, Matt, what is what's a better chance if you want to play the Occam's razor?" Occam's razor was put out to the whole notion of Occam's razor was put out to screw with us anyway. What's more likely then, Matt? If somebody was tuning into this from outside of our circles, I can hear them, what they would say if they're throwing the rubber ducky against the wall in their bathtub, saying, "So maybe the official story is actually real." See, Matt, the only way you guys can explain it away that it wasn't coordinated in a cave by um, Osama or whatever, bin blah, blah, blah. It wasn't. Maybe if it was really that, see, you don't have to have all these reality breakdowns, Matt. See how that works? If it really happened the way the news says, then that's what happened. You don't need people quiet at American Airlines. You don't need all these groups paid and threatened. You see, you understand? So that's one of the reasons. That's one of the main things they would say to us. Excuse me. That, and they would be right. They would be right. What's more likely? I mean, if you want to apply the ridiculous Occam's razor, that it happened the way the news said, and they really did get lessons, flight lessons in Hollywood, Florida, and it was coordinated in a cave, and it was, then they had training in Germany and came over and all that, and just everything exactly went down the way the news says. And Muhammad Atta's group went up to Portland, Maine, and what's more likely, that, even though, Matt, I agree that it's hard to pull off, or your explanation that whether it involves P or no PP, you have these ridiculous reality breakdowns across all sectors, tens of thousands of people paid and threatened, all being perfectly kept quiet. See how ridiculous that is, Matt? And it's a very strong argument, of course. But I mean, is there any chance? Is there any chance in the world that only one? Is there any chance in the world that the official story that's in the commission report is accurate about 19 hijackers with the box cut? I mean, of course not. Every turn. The inflated tire at the bottom of on the streets by itself disproves that. Of course, there's only one possibility where that is, and I guess there's like 1,000 people that are going to shake their head and go, "I listened to this," because the guy at the end proved himself to be a complete whack job. I listened to this for this conclusion. What a waste! I can't get these 50 minutes back unless literally we are in some sort of separate realities. And if there's anybody new that's getting pissed off by that, so be it. I'm not, this is where we are. Somehow, we translate realities back and forth between ourselves and people like Tony in the dreamer inside the dream, who I forget them again. I cannot remember the Monica Bellucci quote for some reason. It's always a fog to me, and that is very strange. But then, who is the dreamer? The collective consciousness is the ultimate dreamer above this reality dream, and is it possible that whatever evidence somehow as it comes across my reality membrane is translated into what I want, and I will never take that off the table, although objectively, you could argue, well, Matt, if you say to your friend Tony, did this happen? Did that happen? Did that happen? Was United's flight called 175? He would say yes. You would say yes. Your facts are going to match up. So how could there be a translation of realities coming to two different reality bubbles? I don't know. I don't, and of course that right now I wouldn't push all my chips on that crazy theory. I just won't take that off the table at this point because what we see is so clear, and the presentation that we get is so absurd, so impossible that these people we deal with, whether it be my stepfather, my uncle, Tony, the guy down the cul-de-sac, the people we deal with they're not stupid from an objective standpoint. They're, I mean, they're not sitting in their bathtub, rubbing feces all over themselves. Somebody has a college education and a master's degree, and they were a computer programmer all day, and they just came back from work, and they're taking care of their kids pretty well. They're not crazy. So if it's so ridiculous and so obvious to us, I have to keep on the table that, you know, it's the Goldilocks reality somehow is operating down the middle and kind of giving us inputs into our reality bubble that might not be the same as what they're getting. I don't see I'm ever going to take that off the table. And it is as bizarre as it gets, but that's kind of where we are at this point. Thanks, guys.